We are going to watch about the front-end web development. So every development has a front-end and the back-end. The front-end is all the visual stuff. So you see on the web page the text. The buttons and the back-end is what saves and manages your data. Example is your Amazon order history. In this video, I am going to explain that the technologies that are used in front-end of a web application, and in the video, we will explore the back-end. Let's get started. So we are going to start with a blank page, and the first technology we are going to look at is HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language and is used to add contents to your web page. So I can write this bit of HTML to add a button. I can also add other types of comment like images and text, and if I write more HTML, it will add more contents to my page. But you will notice that our page can't look good. That's where CSS comes. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Based on the name, it is used to style our web page. So it's used to make a web page looks good, color, size, spacing, things like that. Let's add some CSS to our page. So now that's look much better, but we are not done here. Let's say that I want to filter these products and only show one brand of shoes. So I click this checkbox, but you will notice that nothing happens. And this is where JavaScript comes in. HTML and CSS only display things on our web page, but JavaScript is what makes our web page interactive. So for example, when we click something and type something, a bit of JavaScript code will update the page based on what we did. The most important feature of JavaScript is something called the document object model, or the DOM. The DOM allows JavaScript to change the web page. For example, this bit of JavaScript code uses a DOM to change the text in the button, and this is how JavaScript make pages interactive. However, using the DOM directly like this is really repetitive and hard to manage, and that's why we use a JavaScript framework. JavaScript frameworks gives us a much nice way to create our web page, and they take care of updating the page. So never use the DOM directly anymore. The most popular one are called React.js, Angular, and Vue.js. Let's take a step back and look at the JavaScript again. As a language is missing a lot of features that other programs languages have. One of these features is being able to split our code into different files and to organize our code. To solve this is what we have to do called a blender. The most popular one you probably heard is called Webpack. Webpack lets us split up our JavaScript code into many different files, and once we are ready to put into our website, Webpack will come all of these files or bundle all of these files into one JavaScript file that we can put on our website. So another tool that we use is called the transpiler. The most popular one you probably heard is called the TypeScript. A transpiler add extra features onto the JavaScript. If let us write an enhanced version of JavaScript, and then once we are done it, will transform the enhanced JavaScript back into normal JavaScript, because browsers like Google Chrome can only understand JavaScript. So these are the major technologies in the JavaScript world. Now we are going to move over to the CSS. CSS as a language has the same problem as JavaScript. We can't organize our code into different files, and CSS is missing a lot of useful features. So we also use a blender and a transpiler for CSS. There's a special name for this called a CSS preprocessor. It's basically a combination of a bundler and transpiler. The most popular CSS preprocessor of you probably heard is called SASS. So let us organize our CSS into different files and let us write enhanced CSS, and then it will bundle all those files together into one file, and it will transform the enhanced CSS back into normal CSS. So you can think of it sort of like a bundler and a transpiler combined. Now once we call the CSS preprocess, developers start to create CSS framework, the most popular one being Bootstrap. CSS frameworks are basically a whole bunch of CSS code, and it helps us solve common problems. So using a framework like Bootstrap saves us a lot of time. The last thing we are going to look at is how the front end is communicate with the back end. For example, let us say I'm on Amazon, I want to make order. How does this order get sent from my computer to Amazon? JavaScript has a feature for this too called XML HTTP request. It let us send a message. In this case, we are going to send an Amazon order to a URL like amazon.com. create order. On the other side, Amazon's backend is listening for these messages sent to this URL, and that's how we place the order. We are going to talk about our web development. So every website has been split up into two parts, front end and the back end. So the front end is all the visual stuff you see on the web page, and the back end is what saves and manages your data. For example, if you are on amazon.com, the back end would store your order history and profile. It would load search videos and much more. We are going to take a look at the technologies that are used in the back end of the website, and in another video we explore the front-end technologies. As an example, let's say that we are on amazon.com and we do something. Now we have to make an order. When I click place order, what happens? We are going to start from the ground up. Any computer that's connected to the internet, including your computer and my computer, can send a message across the internet to another computer. That's also things to the so to simplify things, Amazon has a computer in their official building infrastructure, and our computer is going to send a message containing our order to that Amazon computer. So in this scenario, the computer is sending the message is called the client, and the computer that is receiving the message is called the server. But before this happen, computers, they can't receive messages from the internet by default. We have to program them to be able to receive the messages. To do that, we need a backend programming language. Almost every program language has a feature that turns a computer into a server and allows it to receive messages. Powerful backend programming languages are JavaScript, sometimes called Node.js, Python, Ruby, and Java. However, using a backend programming language by itself is actually really difficult and require a huge amount of code. So there are two tools we use to help with this, a backend framework and a package manager. A backend framework helps us create a server much easier and with a lot less code. For each backend programming language has a few frameworks to choose from, but the most popular ones are Express.js for JavaScript, Python, Django, Ruby on Rails, and Java Spring. So in the backend, we also use a lot of code that other people have written called packages to do common tasks like doing calculations, talking to a database, and setting up user login and authentication. So we typically use a lot of packages in our backend, and in order to install and package all these packages, we use something called a package manager. Each language has its own package manager. The most popular one are npm for JavaScript, pip for Python, bundler for Ruby, and maven for Java. These are the technology we need to create our backend server. The next problem we have is we need somewhere to save the data for our website. Going back to our Amazon example, data could mean our user data, like the login information, order history, as well as data for all the products that are being sold on Amazon, the descriptions, the ratings, and the reviews. To do this, we use a database. A database helps us store and manage data. Is just a piece of software that usually runs on a different computer, and we have to do some setups so that our backend communicate with the database. Most popular databases are MySQL, Postgres, and MongoDB. Alright, so if you're just starting out, this is basically all you need for the backend. You can build most of your projects with just a server and a database. For example, here's how our Amazon scenario could work. When the customer places an order in the front end sends a message containing the order to the backend. The backend then saves the order to a database and sends back a message to the front end confirming that the order was created. The message that the front end sends to the backend is known as request, and the message that the backend sends is known as the response. This is called a request response cycle, and this is generally how web application works. So here's another example. Let's say that you are in the Amazon warehouse. The warehouse might have a different front end that send a request to the backend to get our order. The backend that gets our order from the database and sends it back to the warehouse front end, and then they go ahead and prepare our order. So now we have seen the overall flow. We are going to dive deeper and take a look at what's inside the request. So here's a simple example of request to create a Amazon order. So you should easily understand the quantities are some other information about our Amazon order. We have the type of request, the domain name, and the URL path. This describes where this request is going and what type of request this is. First of all, Amazon, the company has bought the domain name amazon.com, and they configured it so that any request going to amazon.com will be redirected to that server in their office building. So that's why we are sending this request to amazon.com. The type and the URL path identify what kind of request this is. So in this example, this is a post request to /orders. So in the backend, we use programming language and backend framework to define what type of requests are allowed and how we should handle these requests. We can allow a post/orders request, and whenever we request a post/order, we will create an order using our programming language and save it to our database. We can also allow a get/order request. So we will retrieve the order history from the database and send it back as a response. Another example is a delete slash order request. So this list of all the different types of requests that the backend allows is called an API application. Application program interface is one of the most important concept in backend programming. So if you send a request that is not allowed by the API, the backend will respond with an error. So we mentioned earlier that we can identify request using a type and a URL path. There are several types we can choose from, such as post and put and delete, and the URL we are doing. So why in this example do we choose post slash orders? So this is just naming convention for our request, and this naming convention is called REST representational state transfer. So in REST, this type of request has a special meaning. So post means to create something. So post slash order means to create an order. Get means to get something. Delete means to delete something. So an API that uses the REST naming convention is called REST API. It's most common convention that we use for APIs, but there are several other conventions. One of them is called GraphQL, which uses post slash GraphQL for all the responses. Another one is RPC, remote procedure call. So it post like post slash create order or post slash get order history. So that's what a request is when an API is and what REST means. So let's talk about the infrastructure nowadays. So instead of company purchasing, they rent computers from a cloud computing company. So the biggest cloud computing companies are AWS, Amazon Web Services, and GCP, Google Cloud Platform, and Microsoft Azure. So basic idea of cloud computing is you are renting a bunch of computers. Is also known as infrastructure as a service. So behind the scenes, AWS has a giant powerful computer, and inside its software, it's running many small computers, and we are actually renting one of these small computers. And these small computers only existing in these softwares, and we call them virtual machines or VM. So we rent a VM from AWS to run our backend, and we also rent our VM to run our database. Another problem we have to solve is, what if our website get really popular during the holiday session and we start get a traffic that our server can't handle? So with cloud computing, we can set up multiple VM running these same backcode. Special VM in front of this called a load balancer, LB. So it will distribute request evenly. So once the validation is over, we can just shut off our VM when we don't need them. So we having to buy physical computers. So you still have the physical computers that you paid for. But we still have another problem. We have a lot of VM that we need to create and set up, and it takes a lot of time and effort. So the cloud computing companies offer another service called PA as a service, platform as a service. Okay, so it will set up all the VMs including the load manager and integrate everything to us. So three most popular paths are Elastic Beanstalk for AWS App Engine, for GCP, and the app service for Microsoft Azure. So the next concept we are going to look at is microservices. For our Amazon example, let's say that our backend contains code that serves as an order, so that charges the user credit card and sends an email confirmation. So in the real world, this backend can be millions of lines. So we split up into three code bases. So then each of these code bases will have their own backend, each with load balancer and some with their database. Then we need to send a mail. So our orders backend will send a request to the email backend, which will send the mail. So splitting our backend into separate backend like this is called microservices. So it makes our code base smaller and more functional. So it doesn't have to use the same programming language and the database. It can be by using JavaScript and MongoDB, and sometimes the execution can be done by Python, and it may be used by SQL. So Twilio provides a backend and an API for sending emails. So instead of us creating our own email service, our backend can just send requests to Twilio's backend. When a company provides a backend and an API that outside application, this is called a software as a service. So pretty much everything you do in the backend. So this probably a SAS company out there. So and you just use that service instead of building your own microservice. So these three concepts we just looked as infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service are the three foundations of the cloud computing.